Let me see. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. You are at Senior Roundtable. Our dates are posted there. You'll learn more about Senior Roundtable in just a second for anybody who's new to the group, and we're really happy to see familiar faces and some faces that we have not had a chance to meet yet. So all of our meeting dates are there. We'll also put that in the chat box. You'll see that again at the end of the meeting. We'll post those dates one more time. We're also thankful for our meeting sponsor. You'll hear from our meeting sponsor here as we get moving a little bit more in the program. So with that, why is mine not moving forward? There we go. Okay. So my name is Laura Steigelman. I am a consultant. I've got a company, Florida Training Solutions, here in the Northeast Florida area. We do all kinds of different things. I've got myself kind of identified there, so I'll move forward with that. Elder Source, I know Gabby, you're on here. If you will wave, and if there's anybody else here from Elder Source, if you will please wave, give us a smile. Elder Source is amazing. They do tons of things for this group behind the scenes. So they manage that email distribution list. Gabby made that beautiful logo and all of those things. So she does a lot of behind the scenes. Andrea was in that role, so is helping Gabby get up to speed, but Gabby's been pretty quick jumping in, getting up to speed. This group was started by the Community Foundation. The Community Foundation started this, again, probably 16 or 17 years ago. Officially, kind of the thinking took place at that point. And what happened is Kathleen Shaw was out there and they were starting to do grants in the senior sector and realized that a lot of folks providing these really wonderful and necessary services didn't know of each other. So 15 years ago, they launched what you're seeing now, the Senior Roundtable. We are forever grateful for them. The networking, the contacts, the resources, like the great speakers that we have today, gives us that opportunity to learn more about that sector and how we can help those that we are entwined with personally or professionally based on our job. Okay. All right. So today's meeting is recorded. It will be available. We'll send it out if you've registered and you're here with us today. You will get that post-meeting document that will have the recording link in it, and any handouts that your presenters have for you will include that, and that'll be out next, probably Monday or Tuesday typically. If you're newer to Zoom, along the bottom of your screen is what's called a Zoom ruler. And you can physically move that around. If you've got a second screen like I do, et cetera, you can move that around. And on that, you're going to see something called the chat box. So on the chat box, you're going to see that you can put different things in the chat box. We're going to put some instructions in there. During the speakers, we're going to ask if you have any questions to put into that chat box, et cetera. So that's how we'll be using the chat box as we move forward. Please feel free if you've got a question or something like that. We'll ask everybody to keep themselves on mute, just simply so we can focus on what the speakers and the different things going on. But if you've got a question or something, please put it in there. We'll keep an eye on it. And your name, if you're willing to put your first and last name under your picture, if you hover over your own picture, if you're not sure how to do that, 3 dots will pop up and you can click on those 3 dots and it will help you rename yourself. And if you have space under your name to put your organization, that's great too. And if not, you'll have a chance to share that a little bit in the networking groups. And video on if possible. We miss each other. We know that convenience wise, people really enjoy just being able to jump on Zoom and then get off and go to their next thing. And again, we will have that May meeting in person, but if you're willing to keep your video on, it just helps with that eye contact, engagement, energy in the room, all of those things. So who is Senior Roundtable? As you can see there, it's a coalition of really anybody who is interested in the senior sector. We meet every other month. We do have those meeting dates already decided for 2023. Some of you saw them on that first slide. You'll see them on the last slide today also. There's never a charge. It's open to everybody. We used to be in person. Now our meetings are in Zoom, although this year our May meeting will be in person to celebrate that 15th anniversary. And the purpose is to network with colleagues, find out who's out there, add to your contacts, renew contacts that you may not have seen for a while. And then we always have a great educational program, and today absolutely is no exception to that. Mission statement is all about collaborative relationships. So that is who Senior Roundtable is. So where are we going today? In just a couple of minutes, we'll ask if you have any announcements to put those in that chat box. And again, if you're newer to Zoom, the chat box is along your Zoom ruler at the bottom of your screen. Just click on the word chat and it'll pull up that chat box and you'll see folks putting comments in there. We'll hear from our meeting sponsor. If you are a meeting sponsor, you get 3 minutes on the clock to talk about your services, organization, et cetera. So Jackie is our sponsor today with First Coast Aging in Place. And she also is giving away 2 $25 Amazon gift cards at the end of the meeting today for door prizes. We'll have a couple opportunities to meet and greet. Our topic and speakers, you've seen that on all the announcements. We're just thrilled to have these folks. We got a couple folks, Dawn and Daniel from Florida Division of Blind Services, Kathy with Florida Braille and Talking Books Library, and Russ is going to be joining us, we hope, from NFB-NEWSLINE. So you'll hear from those folks. And then we'll wrap up with our door prizes. So if you do have any announcements that you think are relevant for this audience, please put those in the chat box. So if you've got an event coming up later this quarter, an Alzheimer's Association meeting that you think would be interesting for everybody else to be included or know about, you can put that in the chat box along with contact information so people will know how to get more information. So put something in there if you've got it coming up. If you need help with something, you need somebody to collaborate with your agency. If you've got an event coming up that you want folks to support or join or partner with you, that's a great spot to put it in that chat box. We also have a LinkedIn group. We would love to see you join the LinkedIn group. It's just a place for you if you say, gosh, I met that really nice lady that worked at this group or this person that worked here. How do I find them? Hopefully they're in that LinkedIn group and you can find them that way too. So that's another opportunity for you to connect with each other. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie. And Jackie, if you'll please set your own timer. If you want me to stop sharing, I can stop sharing. If you've got anything, Jackie, you want to share, otherwise I will just keep that on behind the scenes to remind everybody about your organization. And
you can leave it there.
Okay. So Jackie, all yours.
Thank you, Laura. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. And so like Laura said, my name is Jackie Ndora-Montgomery, and I'm an occupational therapist and certified case manager. I'm the owner of First Coast Aging in Place Solutions, and we're based here in Jacksonville. We're a community-based occupational therapy private practice that offers in-home services and support as well as virtual assistance. And we serve Duval, Nassau, Clay, St. John's, and Flagler counties. And really our vision is to help seniors remain healthy and independent while safely aging in their homes. We really aim to help patients, overcome any impairments and challenges that keep them from reaching their functional capacity. And our goal really is to just help serve families through the aging process. And we really want to empower aging in place. And our in-home occupational therapy services are covered through Medicare Part B. So we're what is sort of referred to as a mobile outpatient therapy. And those of you not familiar with what occupational therapy services are, they include, helping people that are recovering from injuries to regain their skills, preventing deconditioning, providing support for older adults experiencing physical and cognitive changes. So OT covers just a wide variety of all of that, activities of daily living. So whether it's bathing, grooming, dressing, medication management, anything lost because of an impairment, we help work on those skills. So a few services that we offer at First Coast Aging in Place is we focus on home safety and assessments and home modification consultations. And what that includes is we'll evaluate the person and see what they need. So how they are working in the environment and how it's affecting them. We'll do a written plan and recommend home modifications, and then we'll facilitate with obtaining and installing the modifications they need and follow up and train the caregivers to use that safely. We also have a memory care and dementia care management program, and we're specialists in providing tailored services for those experiencing dementia. So regardless of the stage, we'll offer caregiver education and support and training. And we have a fall prevention program that we really tailor to really identify why the seniors are falling, and will educate their families. So for additional information, I'll be offering a flyer for Laura to share, and you can find, have our website and all of our details that you can reach us. But thank you for having us, and back to you, Laura.
Jackie, thank you so much. Thank you for being willing to sponsor. And then Jackie, if you're comfortable, you can go ahead and if you have an attachment, you can put that right into the chat box. And if not, again, just get it to us. We'll include it in the post-meeting email going out next week. So thank you again very much. And a couple questions for folks in the chat box, so keep an eye on that. So if somebody's asking you a question, you'll see it there in that box. Divya, am I saying it correctly? I know it was prettier than what I initially said it. So Divya, you got a question in there. If you're comfortable, type it right into the chat box. People can follow that along. Okay, so we are going to move on. And for how many folks here is it your very first senior roundtable meeting? By show of hands, very first senior roundtable meeting. Awesome. Okay, so we're very happy you're here. Again, a big part of these meetings is who's out there and what do they do. So with that, we're going to have a couple rounds of networking. Round one, you're going to be sent automatically into a breakout group with several other folks. Our Zoom producer is working on that behind the scenes as I speak. And if once you get into that breakout group, where do you work? If that's applicable, sometimes folks just come to these meetings because maybe they volunteer. They've got a senior in their life that's important to them and they want to learn more about the resources out there. So if you're working someplace or associated with an organization, share that. And what is something you hope to accomplish this year in 2023, personally or professionally? You'll have a total of 7 minutes. I believe that there will be a timer in the chat, or excuse me, in the breakout room with you. So you can keep an eye on it that way. Room leader, next birthday. So whoever has got that next birthday, if you'll just keep an eye on the time and make sure everybody gets a chance. If you've got 4 or 5 folks in your room and you got a minute or two to go and a couple people haven't had a chance to introduce themselves, if you'd be willing to kind of take the wheel on that and make sure everybody gets a chance. And then once you click on the chat box, so Sarah's putting it into the chat box information. Let me get there myself. So you'll see this information in the chat box also. So I think Sarah's behind the scenes here. Sarah, are you able to put that in the chat box for them so they can see those things? You may have been ahead of me already. There you go. Thank you. Sarah's got it in the chat box. It's a little bit up where you're seeing the in the chat box. If you'll scroll down, if you're looking at different comments in there. So name, where you work, organization, next birthday, 7 minutes, etc. Let me pause for just a second. Any questions before we send you off? It looks like Lauren has a question.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't have a question. I was raising my hand that I was new here. So clearly very new here. So I apologize, guys.
Not a problem. Lauren, welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'll lower my hand.
So I know the hand thing's a funny thing. It keeps it up until you actually make it go down. But if you're doing a clap or something, it takes it away for you when you don't want it. So it's interesting. Zoom is quite an animal, good and challenging for sure. All right, so we're going to send you automatically. We're going to bring you back automatically at that 7 minute mark. Enjoy your time with each other networking. We'll see you back here in 7 minutes. If you click on that chat box, you will see all of these directions that you see on the screen in your breakout room. Once you get in your breakout room, click on the chat box. All right, see you back here in 7. All right. So welcome back. Again, who met somebody they did not know before? Anybody get a chance to add to their networking contacts? Love that. Okay. So we are ready for our fantastic program today. You can see the program title there. You saw it on the announcements when they came, when you registered to come into the class today. And if you have any questions for the speaker, even if the speaker is done and we've moved down to the next speakers, put it in the chat box. I'm going to keep an eye on that. If you are a speaker who can multitask and also note the chat box, and if you see your own questions in there, and if not, I will eventually interrupt or I'll wait for a pause or something and say, hey, there's a question in the chat box. So-and-so wants to know such and such. So if you've got anything for the speakers as they're talking or after they're done, just put it in the chat box. We will keep an eye on that. So we're going to go in this order of some sort as far as the 3 organizations. So Dawn or Daniel, I'm not sure which one is kicking us off, but we'll start with the Florida Division of Blind Services. And then I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If you have something you want to share, you can. Otherwise, we're just looking forward to hearing your information. So we thank you for that. And if you're willing to do your own self-introduction of both yourself and your organization, that is very appreciated. So with that, and if you have your timers handy, just so you have some idea of how much time you've got, we've got the program on until about 20-25 after, and then we'll wrap up with our door prizes and get you out the door at 10:30 for everybody. So, all right. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And our first speaker, you've got the floor.
think Dan is going to speak first.
Hi, Dan, are you ready to go?
We haven't lost him.
I hope not. I see him. No, he's on here still.
Yeah, he's just muted.
Dan, I don't know if you realize that you're muted.
I guess I could go ahead and go, and then Dan can come in and give you
I
a
think
little
that
bit of
would be good.
background.
Thanks, Don. Thanks. Maybe you could start with telling everybody who we are and what we do.
Yeah. I am with the Division of Line Services. I am out of Gainesville, but I also cover the Jacksonville area. And we help people with vision loss. And the largest group of people with diminished vision is senior citizens. And often seniors believe that nothing be done with the inconvenience of having a visual impairment, and they normally don't seek assistance that is available. Some individuals mistakenly believe that services are only for those who cannot see at all, but it's not true. We don't offer it to people who are just low income or anything like that. It's for anybody, no matter what your income is. We help if you have a bilateral visual impairment, we are there to help you no matter what. Independent living services, they have to do to having poor vision affected in both eyes. If you need training, we have a lot of clients who have glaucoma. We have a lot of clients who have macular degeneration, and we have a lot of vision loss to some that has have stroke and everything, and it causes them to wind up losing their vision. And we have a lot of seniors that don't realize that these services are out there for them to help them to continue to be independent, to be able to stay in their home, to be able to continue to cook for themselves, clean for themselves, and everything like that, to be able to go grocery shopping and things. So that's what we do. We go and we give them training. So some of our services include, we do information, we advocate for them, we refer them to other agencies, like some of you guys, is that they might need help with, whether it's housing or whether it's food or anything like that. We kind of help them with that. We have a low vision services as well for them to help them with low vision devices. If they need a magnifier, we get the correct magnifier for them so that way they continue to read. Or if they wanted to, their mail, some of them still write checks and everything, and we have things for them to continue to do that. We also have check writers. They're just a plastic form that fits right over the check, and everything, they can continue to write their checks. And we also assist them in training to use software. If they have like a smartphone or a computer or tablets, we can give them the training for them to be able to learn how to do voiceover on there, to be able to continue to use their phone, to be able to get emails, to be able to search the internet and stuff. We also do, like I said, the self-care skills, such as cooking and cleaning. There's so many things out there that I have learned for older people, because measuring cups, they have these things called liquid levelers that you put in the cup. So when you pour liquid, it beeps and lets you know that it's full, that you can stop pouring. There's so many things out there for them to help them continue to be independent and to be able to stay at home and do things for themselves. And I've talked to so many, when we do our closures and stuff, I call them and speak with them to just make sure how their services have went, if they need anything else or anything. And a lot of them, they are so grateful and just so happy to be able to learn these skills that they didn't even know was available before, because a lot of them, like one of the ladies was saying, the doctor, I think it was, a lot of these people get depressed and everything because they think that, well, I can't see, I can't do anything. And in my own experience, my stepmom, she has macular degeneration, and the older she gets, the worse it gets. So I've been trying to put forth some of my skills that I have learned here with her to show her you can still cook, you can still prepare all this. You just have to do it a different way than the way I would normally do it, or the way you used to do it. So it's just a little bit easier, just like with the Talking Books Library. We have a lot of clients that we refer to that because they think because they can't see anymore, they can't enjoy the books or anything like that. And we always tell them, no, you can do this. You can still listen to your books. You can still, have a life, other than just your blindness. You cannot let your blindness hold you back at all. And when they find out all this stuff, they are just so blessed. And it makes me feel good, because then that way I can have them to continue doing their own stuff. And it's just wonderful. I mean, I think the oldest one we've had to graduate our program was 110 years old. So yeah, it's great. It's great. I'm new to this, so I'm still learning, but there's so much out there for them. And when I talk to people, I tell them there's nothing you can't do. I'm here. I'll help you. I'll help you with any kind of resources or anything that I can find, to help you get where you need to get.
So Dawn, how should somebody start? So if somebody's got a client, a family member, or whatever, where do they start to even understand what could be available to them, kind of an assessment kind of thing? Where's that first step?
Well, the first step is you can either call us and we can put in the application, or you can go onto our website, which is dbs.myflorida.com, and I'll put it in the chat. You can go on there and apply for services, and they must have a bilateral impairment. So they must have an impairment in both eyes. And then you just go in there. All we would need is the eye report from their physician, which has their visual acuity and everything on it. And then once we get that, we just send them right over to our CRPs, which in Jacksonville, we work with VERC. I can't remember, Vision. I can't even remember, it's a long acronym, but we work with Elder Care here in Alachua County. They do all of our local here in Alachua County, but we send it over to them and they immediately call them. So they go kind of quick. So they'll contact them, they'll get out there and do an assessment to see exactly what needs the client needs. They might say they need one thing, but when they get out there to assess them, they can be like, well, I think you can benefit from this as well. So they kind of have that. And then they start getting them their services and start training with them and everything. But yeah, you can go online. There's even, I put a flyer in the chat box on the independent living, but you can also go on to, like I said, our website, which I'll put in the chat box, and there's a lot of information on there as well. The application is there. If they want a paper application, we can mail them one. You can also print it off online as well. But yeah, we don't have a problem. I don't have a problem if they call and say, hey, I need services, then I can put the application in for them, because it's very small. It's not, like some applications are full detail, but we can do that. We can do that for them. It's not a problem, because we know a lot of people don't have access, or they don't have family members or anybody to help them. So it's just easy for them to call us and us just put the application in, because a lot of times if they have like cataract surgery and they don't qualify for our services, we normally find somebody else that can help them and that they will qualify for. A lot of times it's the Lions Club. So we will find alternatives for them.
And then Dawn, are you the person for all of Florida or just the county that you're in?
Each county has their own IL counselors. Some of the counties have 3 and 4, like Orlando and Miami and stuff, because it's such a large area. But no, I cover Gainesville and Jacksonville. Those are my 2 areas, but Gainesville, we cover 8 surrounding counties. which like Gilchrist, Levy, Marion County, Dixie County, and like Jacksonville, we do Duval, Nassau, St. John's, and stuff like that. So we have all of this little area up here is what we cover.
And then, and I apologize if you said this at the beginning, is there any income requirements? Any?
No.
Awesome.
No, there's no income requirements whatsoever. We don't go off, we're a state agency and we don't go off of your income.
Dawn, anything else that you would like the group to know before you get to slide out of that speaker spot?
Not right now, not that I can think of off the top of my head. If I do, I will definitely slip it into the chat to you guys. Like I said, it's my first time. I'm a little nervous, but if you do have any questions or anything, please feel free, to contact me. I'll even slip my email address in there. So if you guys want to send me any information, that can even possibly help some of my clients out in the Jacksonville area, that would be wonderful as well.
Awesome.
Dawn, hey, this is Russ, one of your fellow co-speakers.
Hey, Russ.
Hey, Dawn. I wanted to really quickly just jump in and remind you too, that I am actually a former client of the Division of Blind Services. I spent many years back and forth receiving services from DBS. I'm blind, of course, as you know, and DBS was so critical for me, not only while I was working, but there were times that I needed some extra help, a little bit in the home when I moved from one home to another, or I needed to refresh things like cane travel skills or learning Braille when it got the right time to do that, or some of the technology, things like that. So Blind Services was there as my partner, kind of moving through the life I wanted to live and the independence that I wanted to have. They never did anything shy of encouraging me to have the life I wanted. So I'm really grateful to the division for being a good partner for me for many years.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we help. The thing is when we close somebody out, because they have training is successful and everything, it's not like they can't come back. If they see like, hey, I've moved to a different home or something, I've moved to somewhere or they have new places they are working or something that they need some orientation and mobility and stuff, they are more than welcome to come back. They can come back and they can get more training. It's not like, all right, once you're done, you're done. You can come back as many times as you need to in order to get training, because technology changes, and your surroundings change and everything like that. So we will welcome you back as many times as you need to continue to help you keep your independence.
Dawn, thank you. And Russ, thank you for jumping in there. That's wonderful to hear that they were so helpful to you and made such a huge difference. Dawn, so for the attachment that you put in the chat box a little bit earlier, do you mind putting it back in there again, just sometime while the speakers are? The way that Zoom works is that if people have joined after the attachment goes in, they can't see the previous chat information. So that way anybody who's listening right now to your presentation will have access to that. So if you're willing to do that and put your contact information, anything else you think folks should need, know, website, etc., please be willing to do that. Very appreciated. Look at Dawn, who's just an expert. It's her first time. She's putting stuff in the chat box. She's answering questions. She's smiling, all of those things. So thank you, Dawn, very much. And I'll keep an eye on the chat box. And if you've got a situation where you cannot chat for whatever reason, you either don't have it visually in front of you or you're on your phone or it's just a challenge for you to do so. If you unmute yourself, I will see that and I will call on you to ask your question. We try to keep it in the chat box just so we can keep things moving and keep on track, but absolutely, if you've got a situation, just unmute yourself. I see that and I will say, hey, I see so-and-so's got a question. Let's stop for just a second. We'll get your question from you. So Dawn, thank you. Wonderful job. Got a couple kudos coming in the chat box for you from a couple folks saying great job. And with that, are we moving now to Daniel, Kathy?
I think we're going to give one more opportunity if Dan is able to add anything to the presentation. The idea was that he and Don would work together to present this particular piece, the DBS seniors services, what we call independent living for seniors.
Okay.
Dan, are you able to address this at all?
You may have had some emergency and had to step away, so
That's possible.
haven't seen him come back on or unmute or anything since we.
No, but his name is still there, but, and I'm sorry that we missed him, but Don couldn't have done a better job. I think that it's very complete, and thank you, Russ, also, because it's always very useful to have the perspective of a user of the service. And I think that we can probably be pretty sure that there's people in our group here, from what I can gather, that have clients that could possibly benefit from Division of Blind Services. It's a wonderful organization, and it's people like Don and Dan that make it that way. So thanks. And I think I'm going to go ahead and step in then and talk a little bit about the Florida Braille and Talking Books Library. Is that all right, Laura? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And please introduce yourself, Kathy, and tell us anything that you think we should know about the organization and all the great services.
Sure. So my name is Kathy Searle Acevedo, and I work for the Florida Braille and Talking Books Library. It is a division. We're under the Division of Blind Services under the Florida Department of Education, but we're also part of the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled, which is part of the Library of Congress. So lots of names floating around there. But actually, I don't know how many people might know it. Does anybody have any idea when Talking Books was started? Anybody have any idea who might have started it? So I don't see any hands there, but the answer to that question is Helen Keller started it back in 1931 as an act of Congress. Can you imagine that? It's been around for over 90 years. How many government services go that long? I know that Division of Blind Services is pushing 80. So these are services that are there. They're definitely there. They're going to stay there, God willing, and the creek don't rise, and I think it's something that it hurts us all when we know how underserved our populations can be out there, when people just don't have the word about what we do. So what does Talking Books do? It's as I say, it's a national library network that currently serves all 50 states and 3 U.S. territories. And we do operate through the Bureau of we are a bureau of the Division of Blind Services. The Florida Regional Library, which is the main library covering all of Florida, is located in Daytona Beach, and it's one of the largest Braille and Talking libraries in the country. It's in operation since 1950. Our library is here in Florida. Before that, they covered the state of Florida from Georgia. You can imagine how that must have been, with Florida being so long and skinny. What do you think you could help me show that? I have a little short slideshow, which I'm not going to bore everybody with too much PowerPoint because I'm a much more show and tell kind of person, but I thought it might be useful. So there we have it. That's our little logo with that all may read, which is our goal, so that everybody in the world can enjoy literature and enjoy reading. Could we have the next slide? There is our little talking book logo. We call him our cutie. He's showing you what our little player looks like and a cartridge with the books. Next slide, please. And this is our logo type for the Division of Blind Services, which we are very proud to be part of. Next slide, please. And here's just a quick view of our remodeled facilities in Daytona Beach. We're on the DBS campus, the Division of Blind Services campus. It's a beautiful campus with the Rehabilitation Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. It's about to change its name, but it's a beautiful facility for people who are needing to help to be trained up, have lost their vision or are blind, and they want to get into the job market. They help do that there. Next, please. There we go. That's our digital player. I'm going to give it physical demonstration of that, but that's one way that people can listen to our books. We call them our DBs, our digital books. You can see that there's a cartridge there with a hole in it that makes it easier to manipulate. It's actually a glorified flash drive that is inserted into the mouth of the player, and they come to people through the mail in those the famous blue cartridge, cases. Next slide, please. And as I say, our services are not just for the visually impaired. That's something that's kind of confusing to people because here we are part of the Division of Blind Services, but our demographic is different. We offer our services to anyone who can't read standard print for whatever reason. This is a friend of mine. He has cerebral palsy. He sees perfectly well, and he is very happy with his talking books. He listens to them in Spanish because we have them in Spanish as well. So, and he agreed to let me use him as my poster boy. So gracias, Juan Pablo. Thank you once again. Next slide, please. People can also download. There's a program called BARD, B-A-R-D, BARD, like Shakespeare the Bard. We have to be a little cute, all the time. So BARD, Braille and audio reading download. Believe it or not, the assistive technology is just way out there. It's going so fast and getting so better all the time. And that's another thing that Division of Blind Services can help people with, get training for that. So you can download audiobooks, and you can also download Braille these days. Next, please. Now here's a lady that she's using the BARD app. She's got it on her phone, and she doesn't have to bother with the player at all. She downloads directly right onto her smart device, and that's how she's listening to her books. So someone was just telling me today that she was trying to interest her husband in our services, and he said the player was too clunky. Well, okay, you don't need the clunky player. You can use your not very clunky. Well, sometimes they're a little clunky, those darn phones, but not very. We love them anyway. So you can download to mobile devices. Next, please. This is a recording studio. We get most of our materials from the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled in Washington through the Library of Congress. But we do have a recording studio here, and we work with volunteers to record Florida interest books and magazines and prize-winning literature for young people and children. And we're very proud of what we do. We have to keep our standards up because we work with volunteers almost exclusively. But if we want to have them posted on BARD, so they can be available nationally to all library users, they have to be good. They have to be well read. And in a few moments, we'll hear what one of our books sound like that we produced here. Next, please. We also produce large print publications, newsletters, and mailings. We collaborate with various affiliated organizations such as White Cane, such as Blinded Vets, National Federation for the Blind, the Council for the Florida Council of the Blind. We also have 9 affiliated sub-regional libraries, and we sometimes publish their newsletters as well. Next, please. So just to walk through, I think I'm going to just walk us through this in our well, come on, Kathy, make up your mind. As we said, it's a free service for anyone who can't read standard print due to, it could be a visual impairment, it could be reading or perceptual disability, or a physical disability. We provide books and magazines in Braille or digital formats in English, Spanish, and other languages. We have applications available for individuals in English and Spanish, and also, applications are available for institutions. So, for example, if my new friend Divya, if she wanted to affiliate her organization, she works with Parkinson's exclusively. And if she thought, gee, I could use a lot of my people could use this, she can affiliate with our organization, with the Talking Books Library, and she would receive a player and some model tapes that she can show to people and help them get signed up for services. And that's our main purpose in making these presentations, is we'd love to have your organizations helping us get the word out, because we can't do it. We don't have the manpower, but we have the power of networks. And this is the Senior Roundtable is such a wonderful network to be connected with. So we provide the equipment free of charge as a long-term loan. We have players and lightweight headphones available. There's amplified headphones available for people with hearing loss. It's actually a special program within the player as well. That does require a separate application, and for that, doctor has to sign off on it, because they could damage your hearing if you used it when you didn't need it. The player runs on electrical currents or rechargeable smart battery, and can be replaced in case of malfunction. The patrons can choose their own books. They can have, or they can have their accounts set to auto select so that the system will pick for them according to their favorite genres, authors, narrators, or they can do both. They can have the system send them books that they like, and they can still order their own books. Next, please. The books can be delivered prepaid through the U.S. Postal Service. This service is free. It costs nobody anything. This is our tax dollar at work. So when people say, well, gee, I don't want to take charity, we have people that feel that way. They've been working all their lives, and something happens and they qualify for the service. I always tell them, you did pay for it already. Did you ever pay taxes? This is our money, our public funds doing something useful. So they can be done, as I mentioned, they can also be downloaded to a USB or a smart device. And every patron has a reader advisor to assist them with ordering and setting up their accounts, any technical issues. They can call or email their reader advisor during business hours or leave voicemail during weekends and evenings. Keep their materials up to 45 days. We are moving on to a system where in each cartridge will be being programmed with 5 books. And so probably it's going to become very relaxed about how long they can keep their books. It's not like the lending libraries. We're not connected with the county or city libraries where you get a fine or something if you didn't return your books. If you never return your books, your service will stop, though. Eventually it will come to a halt because we need to keep things like any other libraries, books in, books out. As I say, the service will continue as long as patrons return their materials in a timely fashion, and the public is welcome to schedule visits to our library. It's not really a walk-in library, but it's an interesting place. It's a very interesting resource for our Florida community. So if you're in Daytona Beach and you'd like to come and see us, please let me know when you're going to be there, and we'll arrange a tour. We'll be happy to do that. We also work a lot with volunteers, and I can't say enough about our volunteers. They are a mainstay in helping the library to serve our patrons. That is another part of my job, and we have at the moment a staff of over 60 volunteers that help us do what we do. And we already mentioned about the recording studio, and here's a plug. If you know any people in the Daytona area who we're always looking for native Spanish speakers. We had a Spanish language recording program. In fact, I came to the library originally as a volunteer myself to that Spanish speaking recording program. My mind, I look like I speak Spanish, but I've lived most of my life in Latin America, and I do. And so we're looking to resuscitate that program, which kind of got suffered from the pandemic, like so many of our programs. Next slide, please. So there are our websites, and oh my goodness, the library website has changed its address, but I'm going to be sending Laura documents that will have all the correct information, and she'll be circulating them to everybody. And my address as well. So we really don't have to worry about that. The phone number is correct. The first website is correct. That is to the libraryofcommerce.gov/NLS, and the DBS address is now just plain DBS. Oh no, yeah, you just don't need the HTTPS in front of it. Sorry about that. I corrected it incorrectly. So if I could just show a couple of things, and I'll be winding up in just a second pretty quickly here. If we could not have the slides. Thanks. So I just wanted to give a quick little demo about how these players work. They're really cool. And they're designed for people to teach themselves how to use them. Each of those buttons is a different size, shape, and color, and it's a different shape as well. So it's and if you turn the machine on and don't have a cartridge in it, every button will tell you how to use it. And I'm going to turn the machine on.
Player on. Press any button to learn about its function. Battery charge remaining greater than 29 hours.
So 29 hours is the maximum, and it's really a lot more than that. If you leave the player plugged in when you don't need it to be portable, which it is portable, and it's clunky, but it's portable and it's very strong. If you leave it plugged in, it'll always recharge. It's got a smart battery. So these things can last up to 5 years. And if anything goes wrong or the battery runs out, we'll take care of it. You just send it back to us in the box that it came in. And it's got a lot of different functions, forwards, backwards, volume up, volume down. It's even got a little function.
Sleep. Pressing the sleep button once will play 15 minutes of the book, and then stop the machine. Pressing the sleep button twice will play the book for 30 minutes, 3 times for 45 minutes, and 4 times for 60 minutes before stopping playback.
So you get the idea. It's, I think, probably I'm not the only person that's ever fallen asleep with a book on top of their head. And, you know, that happens to me all the time. And so this is a better way of accommodating that. It'll turn off. And then when you go back to listen to the tape, it'll be in the same place that it was supposed to be. It also has a tone button, which is it allows people to modify the tone of the narrator so that they can understand it better. And it has a speed button. A lot of people, I've noticed that a lot of my blind friends they get used to listening to the voiceovers and listening to them very fast. And so they sometimes want to go through a book faster than I ever would. So that's a modifiable thing too. So how do they sound when you put a book in? I said I would give you a sample of one of our own creations from the studio, from our studio. And we're going to listen to a very famous Florida author being recorded by a library volunteer who's a very talented narrator.
Cross Creek.
Current position, time remaining 14 hours, 55 minutes.
Oh, come on.
Copyright 1996 by Marjorie Canaan Rawlings. Read by Sue Christensen. This book contains 380 pages.
So you get the idea. It's just an audiobook, but it's a free audiobook, and it's a huge variety of audiobooks, and you can get them in the way that suits you the best. We have high tech, we have low tech, and everything in between, because not everybody in Florida has a computer. A lot of people that use our program do not have a computer, and never will have a computer. And no, thank you, please don't even talk to me about computers. So they can get the player and they can get their books sent to them right to their homes. But a lot of people feel differently about that. And what they would really like to do is have it right on their phone. And it looks just like the player. So I think, let me see if I can get it to play.
End of book.
End of book. Well, that's helpful. I was listening to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Apprentice. So anyway, I don't want to waste a lot of time on that. I want to mention just one little thing here. If people are in a wheelchair or confined to bed, we have remotes that they can use. They can make their players run on a remote. And that's another nice piece of technology that we can offer. So I think no, just one more thing. The applications are online. They're easy to fill out. They can be filled out online. There's basically just the user information on the front, their contact information, what their condition is. And the second page is important because this is where we can help people get the service. It says, any Americans, citizens living abroad or in the continental United States or any of their possessions are eligible, provided they meet one of the following criteria. And so if the person who's blind or has a partial impairment visually, a person who has a perceptual or reading disability, and that can include people with even memory loss or kids that are on the autism spectrum, it's cognitive disabilities also count. And if somebody that has a physical disability, then we have to certify it. The person can certify it here with just they can type in all of their information. Basically, it asks for everything you'd find on a business card and sign off on it. You can sign off on it electronically. And then you would print it and you would send it in to us. And it can be scanned to us. It can be emailed to us. It can be faxed to us. And we will get the service out to you. The only thing we ask is that people will decide whether or not they want to they want to do downloads. We sign them up for BARD and they're in like Flynn immediately. They can start listening to their books. Or they can ask for, can say, I want to use BARD, but I also want the player. Or they can just tell us, I don't have anything to listen on. Just give me the player, please. So that has to be indicated. And then if they want to sign up for auto select, they have to tell us what books they like, what kind of books they like, what authors they like, historical novels, war stories, whatever. And if they want to be screened for violence, foul language, or sex, and that's it. Okay, sorry, I ran over a little bit. Does anybody, Russ or Don, do you have anything to add? Maybe I left something out.
Yes, Russ.
Go ahead, Russ.
Okay, I didn't know. Yeah, I was going to double check that I wasn't muted. With the little airline headset kind of thing I'm wearing, I tend to mute and unmute with that. That's what Laura was thinking. Why is he always unmuted? I don't know if you mentioned or not that in Jacksonville itself, we have one of the sub-regional libraries. I may have missed that when I was fiddling around with my devices, but it's a good thing that locally in Jacksonville, and not all cities have it, we're fortunate that we have through the Jacksonville Public Library, Chris Eaton heads up our sub-regional branch here. And I know that fortunately, I think they and the other sub-regionals hopefully take a lot of the stress off of the regional library in Daytona by handling some of the client contact. And I think they send out a lot of material. So I know that they're a big help to you and that they're a big help to our community.
Thank you for that, Russ. That's really important. We do have 9 sub-regional libraries dotted around the state, and we cover all of the rest of the state that they don't cover. But the important part is we help each other out, because we never stopped our services, not once during the pandemic, even though we had to close the DBS campus twice because someone was testing positive. That's when a sub-region like Jacksonville will step in and continue to give everybody that we would normally serve, they will cover them. And then vice versa happened when Governor DeSantis closed down all the libraries for so long for treatments for COVID. And anyway, so then we could step in and help Chris and his patrons. Thanks for that. And now I think it's time to pass the baton to you, Russ, to tell us about a complimentary service that very few people seem to know about, but anybody that qualifies for library services can get Newsline for the Blind.
Thank you, Kathy and Russ. Welcome.
All righty, I'm ready to go when Laura tells me that I'm ready to go. So if everything's good.
We're good. You got it.
That sounds good. Okay. I'm Russ Davis. I live here in Jacksonville, and I actually happen to be blind. That is just part of who I am, but not all of who I am. I like to tell people that. And happen to be a member of an organization that has been around since 1940, and that organization itself is the nation's oldest and largest organization that supports the needs and desires of blind people in America. The reason that I phrased it that way, and I'm going to give you its name, is it's the National Federation of the Blind. So we are not just an organization for the blind, representing the blind, stepping in on behalf of blind people. We actually are blind people who represent ourselves and our own needs. We have plenty of partners in the community. Folks like the Division of Blind Services and Voc Rehab and the Vision Education and Resource Center here in Jacksonville. Our Rehabilitation Center, Don, I think it used to be called iLab for those who've been around Jacksonville a while, down at the college downtown on State Street. And thanks, folks like the Lions Clubs, they're wonderful groups, but we are very proud that we are of the blind and not just for the blind. And in 1995, what happened was the Federation, I guess it would have been, oh my gosh, what is that, 55 years old, launched a program called NFB-NEWSLINE. And every time I don't say it correctly, the bosses up in Baltimore make me put a quarter in a cup, because they told me that it's important to get the right name out there for us, that there are more programs around the country that use that word Newsline. I found a few and went, can they really do that? And then they pointed out, well, they can, because they do. So that's why we like to make sure that folks know that we are NFB Newsline. When you see it spelled out, it's going to be NFB-Newsline. Everything's in all caps. And so in 1995, they launched this program whereby people who were blind, print impaired, that was the original thought process. We've expanded it a lot, and I'll tell you sort of who's eligible now, whereby folks who did not have the ability to see or access printed material that was available to the sighted community would be able to get access to things like newspapers and magazines. Okay, Dan, if you want to chime in, or Laura, if you want to tell me what he's saying in there, I went ahead and turned off a feature on my phone called VoiceOver, because I can hear the chat in my ear, and I'm very bad about staying focused. So it's a me thing.
So You're saying, could someone check the chat for you? Is that what you're asking, Russ?
Yeah, because right,
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to hear it, because if I hear the chat, you'll notice I go, what? Who's saying what? It's like a second voice in my ear through the iPhone. So yeah, I can do a lot of multitasking, but that's one of the ones that throws me. I'm very audible, as folks might imagine. So with the Newsline program, we knew that people were having difficulty getting printed access to newspapers, to magazines, to other items that everybody else could just pick up and look at. So they launched a service way back when that allowed people to actually use their home telephones. That was what we were dealing with in '95. Not a lot of cells were out there. And dial into a local or a toll-free phone number and select from a menu that was presented audibly the contents of various magazines and newspapers and other items. Information as well throughout the state of Florida, for example, in the Florida area that I coordinate. My role in Florida is the coordinator within this state. I do it on a volunteer basis, not paid to do this. And since I retired, I mentioned in the first breakout room, since I retired, I learned that I am working a lot more hours than I was ever working before. And the exchange is, now I don't get paid for it, but I love the work that I get to do with various groups, including NFB and the Newsline and things like that. And anybody who's retired is nodding their head. They know exactly what I'm talking about. So with the service available on the telephone, you could call into a local number. You could just like that and just dial a local number, and it would connect you to the service. You would hear the items presented. What would you like to listen to, Russ? It knows who I am. And I go through a quick menu and tell it, I want to hear the Florida Times-Union, or I want to hear our very first item we ever presented back in '95, which turned out to be USA Today. Maybe the New York Times, maybe the Wall Street Journal. We'll get into what's available. So we've since then expanded how to get into the service. It's a lot easier now than it ever was. It's a lot more portable. And that's kind of a wonderful feature. Let me see, you're gonna hear my computer kind of chat a little bit, because what I do instead of seeing the screen is it's going to read to me. So let's see where we are here. If somebody wants to type in the chat for me, that's cool too. I don't know if I have any kind of flyers up there, but they might have been included. But folks can reach me and sign up for the service if they are blind, any type of visual impairment, if they have any type of print impairment that prevents them from understanding what the page is showing them, the printed word. For example, if they're dyslexic, if they have a motor skill issue that prevents them, say, from holding a book. I was smiling, Kathy, when you were talking about the service that you are involved with. And these two services hold hands so well together, because I laughed and thought, every time Kathy talks about the talking book service, she could just very quietly or loudly say, and NFB-NEWSLINE. And then she could talk about who's eligible, and she could say, and NFB-NEWSLINE. And here's the cost of it. It's free, and NFB-NEWSLINE. And I hadn't really thought about how you could literally do our presentation by adding those words into your presentation. It's very similar. The difference being, one of the differences being the type of content offered. Our content tends to be much more current in that we don't do recorded books. We actually offer some magazines, so does Talking Book, but a big part of our service are the 450 different newspapers around Florida, around the US, and around the country that get published every single day. We have a couple of days of those, and they cycle off, and then you get the next day's issue and the next day's issue. Literally papers from Florida, 13, I believe, in Florida right now, from every state in the country, national newspapers, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, LA Times. We have breaking news from news sources like CNN, Fox, and NPR. We have weather alerts. We have shopping ads that are available. This is all for free. And even newspapers from outside of the U.S. I'm fond of the international content. Everything from the London Times to the Jerusalem Post to the Japan News, and it's amazing what's out there. When you add in the content of magazines, every type of magazine you can imagine is out there. I think we're over. I think they're approaching 90 right now, if not more. I noticed earlier, took a peek at them, and they were things like prevention in the health section. I think there are magazines on sports. There's magazines on politics. There's magazines that are family oriented. There's magazines on music, and you name it, and they're out there. And this is all available. And all folks in Florida have to do is simply contact me. We have a quick conversation about whether they're eligible. And if you were a Talking Book subscriber, you're eligible instantly. I don't ask any more questions. That's the only ticket I need to not have to talk about any other issues on why you need the service. Once I know that you need it and you qualify for it, then we move into how to get you signed up and how to get you connected to the service through the different methods. Folks can call me. I'm happy to provide my toll-free number. I'll even provide my cell number because that's one I tend to answer the most. So toll-free, if somebody can type it in, and it's Russ Davis. I'm at 844-827-7371. And I'm happy to answer my cell phone. And that's 904-993-8433. 904-993-8433. I think I've got a couple more minutes maybe to talk about how people can get into the NewsLine service.
Thank you, Russ. Excuse me for interrupting. I just wanted to make people understand that we're talking about the way people get their things from the NewsLine is these are audios. These are recorded newspapers and magazines. And they're also available in Braille, as I understand it.
You've got it exactly right. That was
so. If you could tell us how would somebody listen to them?
You would listen to them. That's where I was going now. So you listen to them in various ways. You can connect to the service through a dial-in service and a local free phone number, a toll-free phone number, and then you put in like your little act code the first time you ever get to the service, and then a security code, and you're done. Hopefully, permanently. You don't have to keep re-entering it. I use this service a lot. I just dial a local number. Sometimes I keep a speakerphone on my desk. There we go.
Welcome to NewsLine. Para continuar en español, aprieta 2. NFB-NEWSLINE.
We're going to let it.
By the National Federation of the Blind.
We'll let you hear for just a half a second.
To log in as Russell Davis.
We're going to log in as me. I pressed 1.
National Weather Service watches and warnings.
Well, that's
for your
interesting.
Area. Newberry.
All right, I'm going to stop that, but I'll let you know that is one of the features that we do offer. Is it'll do push notifications through an iOS device, like for weather. Anytime you call the service, and we know people that call it several times a day, they'll get weather alerts as well. But what I would have gone into there were the different ways to get the different options for services, the different ways to get content, national content, international, local shopping ads. Dawn, even things like, I'm talking to you. Even things like job listings are available on NFB-NEWSLINE from several different job portals. I know that usajobs.net is there, and I think Career Builder is there with lots and lots of jobs that are updated instantly. When they're updated on those services, we get the data and we update our job listings. TV listings seem to be important. People are into that. I watch a little bit of TV, not much, but folks use the NewsLine service to look at the TV grid every day. And different ways to get to the service, like Kathy was saying, is we have our dial-in service through the phone. I use an app on my iPhone, and yep, and that lets me hear, you hear voiceover on my phone, and it tells me the different content options. We can listen to content from other states. Like I like to look at football stories during the Jag season from their opponent's perspective. So if they're playing the Detroit Lions, I tend sometime that week to go to the Detroit Free Press and take a peek and see what they're saying about my Jags. Maybe I shouldn't have picked the Lions as the example. How about the LA Chargers? That's a lot better. So for those who are Jags fans, you know why I'm smiling. So you can get to it through your iOS devices, iPads, iPhones, through dial-up. There are portable devices like this little handy one here called a Victor Reader. It downloads content for me every day automatically through Wi-Fi. And my favorites, like the Jacksonville newspapers, USA Today. I'm from Ocala, so I listen to the Star Banner once in a while, and it downloads that content automatically overnight. I get up in the morning and it's ready for me. Grab my cup of coffee from the Keurig, and I sit down with my Victor and listen to news content for a few minutes. You can get it through an Amazon smart speaker. I call her Abigail because if I say the other A lady name, it starts talking. So there are ways to access newspaper and magazine content through that device. It's pretty neat. Kathy mentioned Braille. You actually can take what's called a Braille display, a refreshable Braille display, and hook it up, log into the service, and the content that's coming across as audio for most people or print for everybody else out there almost can literally be converted to Braille display. And with hands on a Braille display, the characters appear magically. It's an incredible thing that the content just becomes live, but beneath your fingertips is the way I see it, or think about it. And you can read, and I don't know if you've watched people read Braille one line at a time. With a Braille display, you keep your kind of fingers generally in the same positions as you go from left to right. You don't have to change lines, it changes for you. Dan, you correct me if I'm wrong on that. So many ways to get NFB-NEWSLINE. The best way to sign up for the service or to talk to me about it, any of the providers here, is just to call me at one of those phone numbers. The cell number is just fine. I don't think I'm missing anything. Yeah, I did make a note here earlier that it's not just for people who are in their own homes. If people are in a care facility, why not have access to NFB-NEWSLINE and content and make their lives a little richer every day? The devices are fairly easy to use, the Victors, and if you have a telephone, or even if they can take care of business with a cell phone, like an iPhone or an iPad, it's there for them.
Thank you, Russ.
We talked about the fact that it's free, right, Kathy? Just like
It's
talking
free.
book.
It's free, and I think we're pretty much up to the end of the time.
Braille display.
Okay, that's fine.
I did just want to mention that Dan O'Connor was asking if someone could see if he could be unmuted. Somehow he feels he can't unmute.
I can send him a request. So it's probably, and it's interesting because I think we talked when he first came on. So that's very strange. Let me see. I'm going to send him a message to unmute. That might help trigger that.
Okay.
So huge applause for Russ. Thank you very much, Russ. If you, I'll just clap very loudly so you can hear the applause happening through the internet here. We are at time. And I know that there's multiple documents that your speakers and your organizations today have available to you, and we will send those out with the recording next week. So you can even come back to all this information. it was just overwhelmingly amazing to hear all the different things that are available. And you heard Kathy say, if you could be an affiliate for them, if you know, we have folks here that work in assisted living and stay-at-home services and Elder Source, of course, a nonprofit works with everybody. And so there's so many different organizations that could help get this out there. So appreciated. So Daniel, it looks like it's still not unmuting you. And I apologize. Zoom again can be our best friend or not so much. And Dawn did a great job of covering everything. So hopefully everybody felt like they got what they needed to from that organization. So again, thank you to our speakers. I'd like to also give a round of applause. If you are here, I know Eileen had to jump off because she had another meeting. If you are here, please give us a wave. And Gabby, I got to add you to this. I thought I had you on that slide, so I apologize. So those folks are behind the scenes. Gabby also is huge. She's newer to the group. So we're happy to have her as well. So thank you for all of everything that you do behind the scenes to make these meetings happen. Reminder on the dates, they're also posted in the LinkedIn group, and there was an email that went out a few weeks ago saying here's all the dates for the year. And remember, May 19th is in person, and River Garden has offered their space for us. So we'll be using their facility there, their auditorium. Carrie is on with us, I think, today. So Carrie, thank you for that. She's our connection to River Garden. And we are now ready for our two $25 Amazon gift card winners. Sarah, our Zoom producer, is going to share her screen and we'll do a spin. Sarah, let me know if you are having any challenges on your side. There you go. All right. So 2 winners. You have to be here to win. So if you're here, make some noise, unmute yourself, whatever you need to do. All right, Sarah, we are ready. And first one is Russ. Russ, you won a $25
Wow.
gift card.
This is turning out to be a good year. Starting off well. Thank you so much.
One more winner. Again, thanks to our meeting sponsor, Jackie, for being willing to do this for us. And our next one, Christina. I think I saw Christina here also.
I'm here. Woo!
Christina and Russ, I'll get with you via email. I've got your email addresses from when you registered. I'll get you connected with Jackie and she will email you your gift card. So thanks everybody
Wonderful.
for coming today. Again, look for the email next week with the recording of this and all the documents that your speakers want you to have. And we will see you hopefully in March, again, via Zoom in March, but in person in May. So please come see us in person in May. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of
Thank you,
your
Laura. Bye.